We begin today with a story out of Florida that has a lot of people talking and surveillance video that captured the whole incident. Before we get to this, though, please help me welcome our panel to discuss what's making the rounds today. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk, NBC and MSNBC legal analyst Dan Goldman, and the co-host of PBS's In Principle, Amy Holmes. Welcome to you all. Okay, so Clearwater, Florida. A guy goes into the convenience store. It's like a convenience store, like gas station, right, type thing. And he parks in the handicap parking space with his girl. His girlfriend was driving the car, and their 5-year-old son, or the man's 5-year-old son, is with him. So the man takes his 5-year-old. He goes into the store, and another man pulls up and is very unhappy to see the one car parked in the handicap spot by a man who did not appear to be handicapped, right? You've seen it. Has this ever happened? You know, it's irritating. You never like to see somebody do it. And he starts yelling at the girlfriend who's in the car, in the driver's seat, starts yelling at her. Well, the boyfriend's still inside, gets wind of the fact, we believe, that some man is yelling at his girlfriend. She did the wrong thing, right? If she's not handicapped, she shouldn't have parked in the spot. But the consequences did not match the crime. And what happened, to keep in mind, Florida has this thing called the Stand Your Ground law. You familiar with this? So what happened between them is caught on tape. When the man whose car, you know, and his girlfriend were in the handicap spot, he comes out of the store. He sees the man who had been berating his girlfriend, and he shoves him. Okay, look, he's going to shove this man. He's going to shove him. See? The man on the ground pulls out a gun. We stop the tape because he did shoot him, and he died. It's a shocking piece of tape, and the question is whether the police did the right thing in not even arresting the man who shot the guy who shoved him down, given the law. Let me start with you on it, Dan, because you're the lawyer.
Sure. Well, this is, Florida's unique and with this Stand Your Ground law, and most people are familiar with that from the Trayvon Martin incident with George Zimmerman, exactly. And what's critical, the difference here, and ultimately what the police chief was citing, is this Stand Your Ground law, which is different from self-defense. There is a self-defense law in many states.
But in Florida, they can't even arrest him. The police cannot even. They say if they could get in trouble for even arresting the guy.
So this is a whole interesting wrinkle to it, which is they can actually be personally civilly liable to pay damages if they make a false arrest under this law. That's a whole separate issue. I think what we're really focused on here is the Stand Your Ground, and that they don't feel like they can arrest this man because of the Stand Your Ground. And the critical difference between Stand Your Ground and self-defense is that Stand Your Ground is subjective. So the police chief talks about the fact that the man on the ground says, "I felt fear." And that's essentially all he really needs to say, whereas self-defense is objective. What would a reasonable person do in that situation? But
can I ask you, so on the tape, one of the things that people are pointing out is, no, there's no question the guy who shoved the man with the gun was out of line. You don't, whether he's yelling at your girlfriend or not, you can't. That was an assault for sure, and it was aggressive, and he shoved him hard, and the guy went down. But if you can see, I don't know if we can show the tape again, but he appears to be, although the tape is going to be analyzed and reanalyzed, he appears to be backing away. Once the guy's down, watch. So watch the guy in the shorts. He's the man who gets shot. Now watch, you tell me whether he backs away when the guy pulls the gun.
Absolutely.
He backs away. He backs away. Megyn, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the ins and outs of this, but I am a human being. And if you shoot someone dead, you better have a damn good reason and be willing to defend that in court. The idea that this guy's not arrested, that he's not charged, that the presumption is that if you're fearful, you get to kill somebody?
Right.
This seems absolutely outrageous.
Here's the question that I have, really, when it comes to Stand Your Ground, is this issue. There are lots of states where you are allowed to carry a concealed weapon legally. There are lots of states that you have the right to protect yourself, certainly. I just wonder, would this guy have shot this man as quickly and as easily if he was in a different state? If he had been in Connecticut at the time, would he have been as willing to pull out the gun?
Oh, I'm sure not, because you stand your ground, right?
But I mean, that's really the issue.
He got in his car and waited for the cops to come.
Right. With the shooter, and I did a lot of reading about this, he had prior incidents. He was the local nut, okay? A month before, he'd gotten in a fight over this very same thing at the very same place. And it was so bad that the shop owner told him to cut it out and call the police and stop doing this.
It's none of his business to go around enforcing the law. Everyone's been irritated when they see somebody parking a handicapped who's not handicapped. And most of us either ignore it because we're not police officers, or at most you go and you report it to the local establishment and say, do you want to make a phone call? Or if you see a cop nearby, you say, hey, look at that. Because you know it's somebody who's disabled who's going to be out of the spot. But this sort of citizen's arrest or citizens...
Vigilante.
Yeah, vigilante. That's
crazy.
He was out of line.
And let's also add that there were 2 children in the car with the 25-year-old nurse when he went to the car to berate this woman over a parking space. Yeah. And it was so bad that people at the store went inside to tell the store owner, there's this thing going down in the parking lot. And the boyfriend goes out there to see what in the hell is going on here.
We have all had those moments where we've had road rage, or you've seen road rage, or you've seen some moment when 2 strangers really get into it in a kind of scary way that's really disproportionate to the situation. To think that either one of those people might be able to so easily feel that they can grab a gun underneath their shirt and shoot someone.
Even the sheriff.
Have to think if that's the way we want to live our lives.
The sheriff down there, Bob Galtieri, said, look, I'm a big believer in this adage that just because you can doesn't mean you should. So he doesn't seem to be on the side of the shooter, but he understands. He says, under the law, I cannot arrest him.
His statement is very interesting, and it was long. And he basically was saying without saying that this law needs to change. And the Trayvon Martin incident didn't have surveillance footage. This is not self-defense. In every other state that doesn't have standard ground law, he would be charged with murder. And it would
murder?
not...
Would it be murder?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it would not, I mean, maybe manslaughter. I mean, it wasn't premeditated, it was a reaction. So it's certainly not first-degree murder.
But I mean, once you've got the gun out and the guy is backing,
That's why
he
it's
did
not
what
self-defense.
any human being would do when the gun comes on him, which is, whoa, this has gone to a different level.
It's equal and opposite force. That's self-defense, right? And that's the whole idea of it, that you're protecting yourself in an equal and opposite way.
But then it can lead to a situation where your fear in response to a fight or something that is escalated in terms of tension amounts to the death penalty for somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. Something that we would never afford somebody who parked in a handicapped spot or even who pushed you down.
All he has to do is say, I felt fear.
Right.
And then stand your ground kicks in. Well, you can do a lot of things, and after the fact, you can say, oh, I felt fear, and they have to credit that. Then the burden shifts to the state to show that he didn't feel fear. Well, how are you going to show that this guy who says I felt fear didn't feel fear?
So if you're afraid of clowns, you get to go around and kill them? I mean, this
is there any reasonable? Yeah, there has to be some reasonable closure. It's not over because there's an uproar in response to this, and people are. I mean, Floridians, you know, it's a big Second Amendment state, but that doesn't mean. You know, gun owners will tell you that doesn't mean we want to pull out our concealed carry and start shooting people at random. So I don't think this is over. We just have a short time left, so I just want to steal a personal moment and say something sad happened in my life on Friday. I hope I can get through this, but my dog died. Already I'm not through it. But yeah, Basha died, and it was super sad. You know, she'd been with me for 14 years.
Wow.
And to me, it was like, just a reminder of how much these little creatures can mean to us, right?
They're family.
How close we get to them. And I know some people would say, like, it's just a dog, but it's been a really emotional weekend. And one thing I wanted to say was, I posted it on Twitter. And, you know, Twitter can be so nasty.
Awful. Yeah.
But it was so lovely these past couple of days. I'm so grateful for all the kindness that I received from everyone. And it's, to me, sort of fitting that this dog who brought so much joy into my life, so much love, on her way out, sort of added more in showing me the goodness of humanity. I'm followed by a bunch of Republicans and a bunch of Democrats. I mean, given my history as a journalist, people of all different stripes follow me on Twitter. And on this, they were uniformly in agreement. They were just full of love and kindness and empathy. And I just thought, you know, it's a nice moment in a way, even though I will miss her terribly. And for those of you who are pet owners, I know you get it. Hug your little dog, your little cat, whoever it is who loves you. Take a moment to appreciate them while you have them.
How are your kids?
My kids are good. My daughter was really upset. Yardley was really upset. My boys were pretty good. My little one Thatcher just turned 5 today. He's 5 today, and he was focused on whether he could get a new dog for his birthday. But it's also sort of just part of the life cycle, right? Mm-hmm. I lost one little person, and my little guy, my one little dog, and my little guy's 5 today, and I'm so blessed to have my 3 kids, and they mean so much to me. So thank you for giving me that moment. I know the audience knows her because I put her on the air a lot. Anyway, okay.
You did it.
If I could give you a hug across the table, I would. Thank you.
All right. I'll leave it at that, but we got to go because we're going to come back with an amazing interview with Dennis Quaid. You do not want to miss this.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.